Crypto should be pumping right now, but it isn't. And with Bitcoin decoupling from the M2 money supply for the first time in years, people are starting to get worried about whether or not we're even going to have a crypto bull market. Well, if you understand the real reason as to why we've seen pullbacks in the last few days, you're going to start to feel bullish, because there's only one reason we've been seeing that activity happen in the crypto markets, and it's because of what is about to happen over the next few weeks and months ahead for crypto and the global crypto markets. In this video, I'm going to explain exactly what's been happening over the last few days and why this time shouldn't cause you any worry. I'm also going to look into the charts and see, while Bitcoin has been underperforming, that many altcoins haven't been doing that bad comparatively, and this signals that we are shifting down along the course throughout this bull market like we've been doing in previous cycles. There's nothing to worry about. So do me a favor, hit the like button and let's get into it. Now guys, before we dive into the charts and find out the real reason as to why we have not been pushing higher and why it is actually much more bullish than you might think, just a quick disclaimer. Nothing I say in this video is financial advice. Everything I say is for entertainment purposes only. If you wish to invest in crypto, you should understand that it's risky and you can lose money. So make sure you don't use money that you can't afford to lose, and always do your own research before investing in anything. Now that we got that out of the way, let's crack on with it. Now guys, I know, I was expecting to see Bitcoin and altcoins rallying pretty strongly into this week, and we did see Ethereum and others pushing up higher just a couple of days ago to hit all-time highs, for Ethereum at least, and then suddenly a major sell-off. What on earth is going on? If we jump across to the Bitcoin chart, we would be expecting to see Bitcoin pushing higher along with this M2 money supply, which is the blue line underneath. But what you can see is, for the last week or so, this is actually decoupled away from the M2, causing a lot of speculation and fear to arise once more, because obviously people were anticipating we were in a bull market, and all of a sudden the very model that we've all been following is no longer proving to be that accurate. So what has gone on? What has really changed over the last few weeks that could be causing this? And why are we seeing these dips happen around now? And why am I still bullish about it? Well, we are seeing, maybe, this decoupling happen for one major reason. We've just seen the Federal Reserve basically telling us that we're going to get interest rate cuts in September. We're now around 85% likely to see those interest rate cuts come in. And those interest rate cuts are significant for crypto. More significant for altcoins perhaps than they are for Bitcoin, but in general significant, because they are going to lead to way more liquidity entering into the markets. Why? And that's for a number of different reasons. Obviously, if interest rates come down, the US dollar will start to fall. If the US dollar falls, other countries around the world can start to inject more liquidity into their markets. Crypto is a global asset. It benefits from other countries around the globe pushing liquidity into the system. Not only that, in the US, it also signals risk-on conditions. It encourages hedge funds and others to start going into riskier and riskier assets, and ultimately crypto is one of those. Other risky assets are stocks, and as you can see, the stock market is continuing higher at all-time highs right now and threatening to go higher more and more. This shows you that what is happening in crypto is a bit decoupled from this, because right now you would expect to see crypto pumping along with the stocks, but it isn't. And why is that? Well, if you've been paying attention to the markets over the past few days and you've been getting down into things like crypto Twitter, make sure you give me a follow, by the way, over at Peter_THOC if you want to stay more up to date with all of the different charts and everything I'm doing in terms of the trades and things I've been getting into. Then you might have seen that people have been talking about market manipulation. So are we ever going to get this bull market? Will Wintermute and Binance and all of these people who seem to be playing the game against us ever let us have the bull market that we've all been praying for? Well, first of all, you need to understand why they are doing it, and then you might understand that actually this is a pretty good thing for us because it signals what is still ahead of us. You see, the bull market right now, to be able to progress into a crazy blow-off-top bull market, needs one thing. It needs liquidity, and a lot of it. With interest rates still high, despite the fact that they are probably coming down, they are still high. There is not enough liquidity in the system to support that full-blown crazy bull market. However, you may have realized in this bull market, every time there's a sniff of a bit of upside price action, you, me, and everybody else out there gets incredibly excited and pumped up. What do? They rush to buy into coins, they go long, they go 10x, 20x, 30x. You've got people like James Wynn telling everyone it's a great idea to go 40x on coins, and this causes coins and markets to start pumping up probably a little bit too early. And if we get a premature bull market before the liquidity's in the system, guess what? It doesn't blow up into the crazy bull market that we all want because it just doesn't have the juice in the tank to make that happen. So what are the market makers doing? Every time people are getting too bullish, they are liquidating the markets. They are taking money off every time the prices are going higher for Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum, etc. Binance sends it to Wintermute, then dumps it back onto the platform, suddenly pumping up supply, and all of that brings down the price very, very quickly. And we can see this happen just a few days ago. If you look at the Bitcoin chart on like the 5 minutes, then you can start to see these kind of wicks like this. Now, these things you saw probably quite a lot during the last bull market, and they would happen on most days as we would continue to pump higher, basically to discourage people from going over leveraged, because when people are over leveraged, it typically makes the price a little bit unstable. But unlike the last bull market where we were pretty much at zero interest rates until the end, right now we are at high interest rates and we are about to come down. This means that our bull market this time has been delayed. It's a little bit slower than it was in the past, and that's why we are yet to really get pumping like we've been expecting. Not only that, there's a huge amount of retail in this bull market right now, many of which were in the previous bull markets and have got a lot of expectation and excitement about what is coming up. But it's yet to arrive, so there's a lot of frustration that is being thrown around right now. So if we know that market makers are manipulating the markets in order to control the price, why should I be excited about that? Why is that actually bullish? Well, because right now we are seeing price being suppressed until a time when the liquidity is enough to carry us into the crazy bull market that many people are expecting. And it will be a crazy bull market finish. Of course, we've got all of these other narratives and stories about why this one's going to be so much bigger. You've got Donald Trump launching his World Liberty Finance project in and around September. Now, previously, I've said that in September, I was expecting a significant pullback, and I was expecting us to push higher towards then. But what if right now we're seeing that dip being accounted for? What if we're starting to see a lot of pressure being held back right now so that it is eventually let loose into September, giving us the September, October, November, maybe very early December blow off top phase like we saw back in 2017, the same year that Donald Trump was also president, where he also started tariffs at the start of the year and he drove the dollar up, and then eventually we saw M2 come down and all similar patterns playing out. Now, it's taken a little bit longer in this bull market, but it's a much more mature market. And on top of all of that, bull markets do not end with most people out there feeling depressed and sad, okay? Bull markets end when people are euphoric and screaming for higher. No one's really screaming right now. In fact, I go across to Twitter and seemingly experienced YouTubers who apparently have been in crypto for a long time have suddenly flipped bearish once again. You would have thought that they might have learned their lesson back in April and May and every single time that we saw scary news come out, but no, yet again, people have flipped a bearish on a little bit of sketchy price action, but ultimately, things, when you look at sentiment, are still pretty positive. If we are yet to see crazy euphoria, then we are yet to see a top of bull market. That's pretty much all you need to really know. Okay, now, something else that has me feeling pretty positive about what we've seen over the past few days. And I'm going to be honest, I've been traveling. I haven't really been paying that much attention, right? And I come and look at the charts and I'm like, wow, Bitcoin's back down to 110. And I was looking at my portfolio thinking to myself, this should be much lower right now, given how much Bitcoin has pulled back. But then I realized something. Unlike all the 50 or 60 other times over the past kind of couple of years, we've seen Bitcoin push up and then drop like 2% only to see our altcoin portfolio nuke about 20%. This time's actually different, you see, because in the last 3 weeks, Bitcoin's actually come down around 12%. But many of my altcoins haven't really come down that much at all. And in fact, Ethereum carried on higher after Bitcoin had already started to come down. So with Bitcoin kind of going sideways and ranging, Ethereum continued to push higher. Ethereum is now down around 12%, similar to what Bitcoin is, but that's after this massive rally. So Ethereum is actually just having a bit of a cool off, and I believe that's simply because Ethereum on the Bitcoin chart is just running into this area of resistance, okay? This area of resistance, which as you can see, if we go across this chart, has been going on since 2019. Now, as soon as this previously broke through after this time, you can see this led to crazy kind of bull market vibes. This was a 136% increase for Ethereum. Around the same time, Bitcoin fell around 10%. So I know everyone's like bearish September for Bitcoin after election years. And yes, for Bitcoin, but not necessarily the entire market. We are actually seeing altcoins playing a little bit of catch up right now. And there's another chart that's got me feeling a little bit more excited even than that. Because you see, before we had Bitcoin starting to slow down against Ethereum. And that's what we've seen happen since basically back in April. That is the phase 2 of the path to altcoin season. That's what we've seen happening. That's why Ethereum hit all-time highs just a couple of days ago and will, despite this little pullback, continue to new highs probably within days, maybe within a week, okay? I'm not saying it's necessarily going to happen tomorrow, maybe within days, maybe within the next week, okay? And I do expect that that's going to happen. And then once we start to see that happen, everything will get resumed again. Everyone who was worried and fearful will forget about being worried and fearful and all get greedy and excited once more. This happens, rinse and repeat. Now, since we know phase 1 is Bitcoin and then Ethereum and then phase 3 is large caps, you would anticipate that the next larger cap coins would be starting to look pretty good against Ethereum or against Bitcoin. And interestingly enough, I found this chart. It's Solana against Ethereum. Now, many people expected to see Solana massively outperforming Ethereum during this bull market, and it has been doing so since the 2023 lows, and that's predominantly because Solana got absolutely wrecked after the FTX crash. Okay, whereas Ethereum didn't get quite so punished during that time, actually had a reasonable performance. But you can see right now, Ethereum, over the last few months since April, has massively outperformed Solana. But Solana is still stealing market share when you look at the TVL, when you look at the number of transactions, etc. And that might suggest that Solana is about to pick up and catch up once more with ETH, running us into phase 3 of the path to altcoin season. And what I'm carefully looking at right now is this particular range, which you can see Solana versus Ethereum has been stuck at since basically the start of August. A very interesting area that previously acted as resistance, as support, and it's a rough kind of zone here. You would anticipate that there is a reasonable chance, because it's already started to happen, that Solana bounces against Ethereum here. If we suddenly see Solana catching up with Ethereum, this could trigger moves from large caps, etc. Ultimately, this is another thing that has me feeling very positive. Over the last few months, every single time we've seen significant downside in crypto, what have we seen? We've seen Bitcoin dominance goes pumping towards the upside. We have seen a shift ever since last Friday, where we saw Jerome Powell basically telling us that interest rates were more than likely going to get cut in September. Suddenly a shift. That's why you can see that Bitcoin dominance has been pushing down. And yes, in the last few days, Bitcoin dominance is back up 1%, but jumping down to the daily, you can see that it is starting to coil over once more. Again, it's just simply running into this buy zone area of support. I said on a video the other day, if you mark off the support on Bitcoin dominance, you can kind of identify every time that we might see a bit of a dip coming in for the altcoins. And that's because Bitcoin dominance will bounce in these areas of support. You can see it's done it here. Likely, eventually, it breaks down. Once it gets to here, chances are we have another bounce that could be another pullback in Bitcoin, maybe the alts as well. And then, eventually it's going to break this neckline. Once that neckline gets broken, things are going to go absolutely crazy. And you don't really want to be waiting for things to go crazy before you're correctly positioned. So right now, I assume that you're all still holding altcoins. That's all I'm doing, right? I'm basically holding altcoins. I'm waiting for those next moves to happen. What happens in the short term, day to day, I don't really care. Whenever the market is fearful and worried like this, and it has been the case over the past few months, that within days we always see a strong correction back the other way. The only exception to this rule comes after a crazy euphoria phase in the market. Yes, the other day people got a little bit more bullish, but we never saw euphoria hitting, okay? Still, I see across comment sections, etc., people telling me that they're not even getting into crypto, they're waiting till like October to be buying in. This is not the sign of an end of a bull market, okay? Now, I personally have focused my portfolio over the past few years towards projects that are actually really delivering useful services, okay? I've talked about layer ones like Sui and Say and other projects within that ecosystem. I've looked at transactions, the TVL, the growth there. I've looked into real-world asset projects that are seeing growth in their ecosystems, that are creating borrowing and lending solutions. I've looked into deep-in projects like Aether that are gathering huge revenues, and others. If you are identifying these kind of crypto projects that are building treasuries and have solid money money in the bank, as soon as we get that kind of risk on condition, as soon as we get money pumping into crypto, these projects will pump liquidity into their tokens because they can afford to do it. So identify projects, make sure they are actually getting used. I don't care whether you think it's just got great tech. It does need to be being utilized. Otherwise, it's not necessarily going to have the money in the bank to be able to pump itself up like a lot of other coins will do. Okay, so that's basically how I've been identifying that. Now, if you want to be able to go and pick up crypto coins, like ones I've been talking about in previous videos, then I want to tell you about these exchanges. These are exchanges that I personally use. Obviously, go and do your own research on them. I personally use Bitunix and WEEX. Why? Because I travel a lot around the world. I live in different countries all the time. And by using these exchanges, I'm never limited geographically to be able to access different tokens and things like that. Also, Coinbase, Binance, and other big exchanges are really difficult for new projects to get on. So if you want to be able to access mid to smaller cap altcoins that are ultimately going to be the top performers in this bull market ahead, then you need to be able to use different exchanges. By using Bitunix and WEEX, which are both linked down below in the description, you'll be able to access pretty much all the different crypto coins that I talk about, and you'll be able to get into them nice and early before everyone else does. Eventually, those coins will end up on Binance and Coinbase, but only after they've done another 5 or 10x before that even happens. Also, by the way, if you sign up through those links down below in the description, you'll also gain yourself extra deposit bonuses, etc. And they'll also allow you to get some of the lowest fees available. Ultimately, guys, crypto market looks absolutely fine to me. It's annoying that it's taking a little bit longer, but the good news is you just get more sleep until eventually the bull market starts, where your dopamine is going to be through the roof and you'll not be able to get a wink. So enjoy the calm times before the craziness really, truly kicks in, because it is really just around the corner and it could happen at any moment. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Found it useful. Do me a favor, hit the like button, leave a comment down below. It's hard making videos in times like this. It's hard to get people to watch videos at crucial times like this because everyone wants to bury their heads in the sand. So thank you for watching. And also, just go down below, leave a comment.